politicians, no match, it's obsession. 12 minutes, made your mark, one-sided shooting star. It's getting really hard to keep believing you don't want to lose. Dirty weapons. You're never fighting fair. Dirty weapons turns deadly into dare. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, coming up on a wonderful 4th of July edition of our humble little podcast.
You believe 2019 is half over. Can I ask you a question, Jay?
Sure.
What the hell happened to June?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Where'd it go? I don't know where it went.
I don't know where it went either.
America's birthday, let's see. What are we, 200 and, I should know this, 43 years young now?
Yeah, right about there. So
like that? All right. Well, for you millennials out there, that's when America became a country. You don't know that, didn't learn that.
That's right.
That stopped. You and I were the last generations to learn. Because, that was written by slaveholders and white guys.
Right.
We can't celebrate that, because that might offend somebody. So,
I mean, forget that the founders wrote into our founding documents a way to eventually get out of slavery.
Yeah, but
hey, we can rewrite
that doesn't mean anything.
No.
That means nothing. If it were up to the academia, some Democrat would have come along and magically done that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Except for the fact that they were the slaveholders.
Yeah, but
and they started the Ku Klux Klan,
and were members for 100 years. I might add.
Yep, and shot down.
Yeah,
the
hell with the
rights.
truth. Jim Crow laws.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, absolutely.
We tend to forget those things. I'll tell you what. When generations die out, the truth becomes harder and harder. I think. The further out we go. Like one of the things that is getting slowly more prominent, I don't know how many people are aware of this, is Holocaust denying.
Yes.
And one of the reasons, I think, is that generation's gone now. The World War II generation's gone.
Pretty much.
I mean, if they're alive, they're 100 or 98.
Yeah, they're in their 90s.
Right, they're pretty much dead. And when there's no more eyewitnesses to something, when there's no more firsthand. If you were a kid, maybe you are still you'd be in the 80s.
Right, you wouldn't have fought in it.
Right,
yeah, you were alive.
But you might have been held in.
Oh, that's true.
One of those camps.
That's true. As a kid, if you could survive something like that, yeah, you might
probably
still be in your 80s.
85 years old, but you're still around. But as those firsthand accounts go away, isn't there some trumpets off of history that die with them?
Yeah, we have a couple of problems in this culture. One is we write old people off. And so we lose a lot of history because we don't sit down and take time to learn from them.
The video games that interferes with Twitter and playing on my phone.
But and this is the other thing. We, for the first time, I would say in World War II, there was a little bit of footage of World War I. There were. We got into moving pictures and stuff like that, but nothing like what we have of World War II. And the ability to capture, and I'd say that they did a very good job of capturing on film and in photographs what was happening during the Holocaust in those concentration camps.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, too, Nuremberg has been criticized a lot as victor's justice and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's some legitimacy to that. I think there's some, I question a little bit whether, a colonel in the army should be prosecuted for, you're dead either way. If you don't follow orders, you're, it's a bad defense that's been, didn't work didn't work for My Lai or any of those places. But, but the one thing it did do, if it did do something, it established the Holocaust on the record, in court, eyewitness testimony, to where, if you hadn't had that, if you'd have taken the Nazis and just gone out and shot them, which a lot of people wanted to do,
right,
Winston Churchill included,
yes,
okay, you wouldn't have had the record that we have, what has been put into history. But it is this phenomenon of denying or propagandizing that is quietly growing.
Absolutely. And even like recently with Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, comparing the detention facilities on the border to concentration camps.
It's so trivialized.
Right.
I mean, the term Nazi, the term racist, the term even the term communist is thrown around, and you sit there and you go, does this woman, this bartender, does she even have any idea? She wasn't even alive when the Cold War was going on.
Exactly.
And it's just, it's my father fought communists in Vietnam. And it's just, it's offensive to listen to that crap.
It is. And then to see the strongholds of that, the concentration camps that do still exist.
Yeah, they're there. They're in North
China,
Korea.
In North Korea. And we have even, we have people that are alive that have survived those that can talk about what has gone on. We have people alive, very much alive, that lived through the whole Pol Pot, Khmer Rouge killing fields and the concentration / labor camps that they were held in as well.
Remember Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutus, the
Tutsis,
the genocide in the 90s. I mean, I don't know. I'm just. By the way,
Sudan, South Sudan,
everywhere. By the way, what was the song? By the way.
It was called Dirty Weapons by a band called Killer Dwarfs.
Oh, okay.
Yes. 80s band.
Snow White and the Killer Dwarfs.
80s, 90s. Late early.
Well, I'm glad I didn't fathom a guess because that wouldn't have been at the top of my list.
You wouldn't have known that one, probably. That was a little more obscure. I'm doing my job again.
Yeah, we're back to that. I'm back to getting... I'm 6 for 123 now or something.
Yeah,
it ain't good, as we say. It ain't good.
No.
Now back to this just for a sec, though, Jay. I mean, what you talk about Independence Day. I am appalled at how little is known about our own revolution. I mean, think about it for a second. Mm-hmm. Think about the Revolutionary War, the reign under the king, the Articles of Confederation, and why that was scrapped, and so on and so forth. I'd like to go. People just graduated from high school a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I'd like to go there and do a little jaywalking, like Jay Leno used to do, and ask some questions about,
like who did we fight in the Revolutionary War?
Guys in the red jackets. Who did we fight? I'd love to see a list of that.
Yeah,
answer. Probably couldn't even, I don't even, what would young people even recite about the Revolutionary War?
Yeah.
George Washington.
Yeah,
Did they even know that?
I bet you there's some that would even say Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
But George Washington.
Crossing the Delaware, which then was a river, by the way.
Yeah, and the whole end with like what Ben Franklin was doing over in France at the time to try and garner some support there, and just all of the battles and how many battles we lost until, things started to switch, and Washington finally started winning some battles. And
you had other battles too, Saratoga, which Washington wasn't in,
right,
and other things like that, and the end at Yorktown. I mean, it is just. I'd like to say I'm appalled by it, but quite frankly, there's not a lot of adults that know it either.
No. I mean, if you said, who are the Green Mountain Boys to anybody today?
They think Lexington was in Kentucky.
Right.
Well,
they're a bluegrass group that I done heard of.
Just there's the old saying, you can't know freedom if you've lost it.
Yeah.
And if you have to understand. I mean, this was a civil war where these folks risked. There's no question if we would have lost the war.
Yeah,
they would have been tried for treason. Mm-hmm. The trial would have lasted an hour, and they'd have ended up on the other end of a tree. I mean,
or a firing squad,
right? Yeah. And military guys probably would have gotten that. But I mean, it just I don't know. It's just. To say that our country was founded by a bunch of racist white guys, I tell you what, I don't know. There's not much that gets me angrier than that. It's just so idiotic and foolish and ignorant, and just fanning the flames of the divisiveness that keeps permeating here. And what we're going to talk about today is going to make things not gooder.
Right.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm not really kind of leading into it, but I kind of am, because, you know, just the whitewashing of history, and I don't mean white as in race, but the trying to make history politically correct.
Right.
I'm lost at, you know, you're picking on a bunch of people who lived 200 years ago and pushing. I mean, do you think that in George Washington's time, they renamed a school for somebody because 200 years earlier they had, you know, fought the British or you know, killed Tecumseh's great grandfather? Or I mean,
right.
I mean, what
if they renamed a school, it was because you had like the Cornwallis School. And,
yeah. That might have even stayed.
It might have. I don't know.
I mean, look at it this way.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing that was renamed, I don't know if you know this.
United States of America, dang it.
Well,
yeah. No.
West Point
Yes, that's
was
true.
Fort Arnold.
Yes, it was.
After
the
Eggs
general.
Benedict Arnold.
Right.
Well, that was the one thing renamed.
Yeah. Well, you know, he kind of got his comeuppance. So
He did, and the poor guy he was with took the bullet for him.
Right.
John Andre. Because so Washington wanted to exchange Andre for Arnold, and the British wouldn't.
Right.
So, yeah, Arnold must have paid them off.
He must have.
His wife had the money, though, not him.
Right.
So,
Well.
anyhow.
Yes.
So, Jay, 2 special treats this week.
Oh, a couple of our as of recent.
Laced with strychnine.
Yes.
Okay, that's what they are.
A couple of our favorite targets as of late. And no, we're not talking about New Hope for once.
No, and that's New Hope, as always, is one of the. I'm sure
they'll get
watch the
mentioned.
last council meeting and find something stupid that they're doing.
Well, I'm sure they'll get mentioned as we go through this first one here.
yeah. Hey, what do you want to bet? The vote was 5-0. Yeah. Well, maybe not quite, not always, but
Yes.
most of the time.
Yes. Let's start a little bit north of the Twin Cities. Oh, let's say Sherburne County, Big Lake, Minnesota.
Big Lake, I've been through there.
Yes, me too. A time or two. Might have even spoken in that city a time or two. Yes, they have. Let's just break it down. They're up there around Monticello. They have a 5-person city council, and a little bit of backstory. The former mayor, Reanne Danielowski, she got elected to the Sherburne County Board. And then before she left...
With 2 years left in her mayor term.
Right. She was the mayor of Big Lake City. And before she left to get sworn in for her spot on the county board, they made a decision to bring in Mike Wallin, who is already on the council. He got elected
Now,
to the council.
Are we talking the Lame Duck Council?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So Mike Wallin had been elected to the council, but they decided to appoint him into the mayor spot and just give him a little increase. You know, if you're going to appoint, that's maybe not the worst appointment in the world. You're just kind of rearranging the deck chairs. Although, from our point of view, you know, mayorship is a little different. It carries
It certainly should be.
carries a little more responsibility.
But in our way of thinking, it should be.
Right. In our way of thinking, yes, it should be separate in the executive branch.
Right.
But yeah, that's another podcast at another time.
That's a month's worth of podcasts.
Yes, it is. So they appointed Mike Wallin to be the mayor. So that happened while Reanne was still on the council. And then...
So just think.
yes.
She got a vote on who would replace her. He got a vote on appointing himself.
Right.
And lame duck council members,
Yeah.
if there were any, also got a vote.
Mm-hmm.
So they all got to decide the fate of the next 2 years.
Right.
Anyone see a problem yet?
Oh, we're just getting started with the problems.
All right,
Just getting started with the problems.
So this Wallin guy becomes the mayor.
Yeah.
Wallin.
Wallin, yeah.
Whatever, same difference. And that creates an opening on the council.
Yes.
Correct, Jay?
Yes. So that creates an opening on the council. So what do? Special election, right?
Absolutely
The
not.
people get to choose who their leadership is, and
See, they might choose wrong, though, if we do that.
well, that's true. So what are they going to do? They're just going to appoint. They'll appoint to that one. And so they chose Rose Johnson, who was the fourth highest vote getter. Is that right? Or
Third highest.
Third highest, sorry. Third highest vote getter in
So
that race.
let's translate that. The voters of Big Lake rejected her.
She was not in the top two.
They're at large.
Yep.
And
With Paul Knier being the top vote getter in that race, and Mike Wallin being second, I believe. Yes.
so he
I think that's right.
okay. So now he has to run for mayor on his own in 2020.
Yes.
Okay. So she gets rejected by the voters, yet pretty much she wins anyway.
Yes.
We should mention that there was no applicants for this.
No applicants?
She happened to be in the audience the night she was appointed. I'm wondering, where was the communication? I mean,
Right.
who made this decision? Who called her up and said, "Hey, Rose, why don't you bring your arse on down to the council meeting, and you might get appointed to the council."
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that she knew beforehand that was the plan.
I want to know how early she knew it. I want to know if she knew it in November or December. I mean, because again, Jay, I think there's no coincidences in local government.
Right.
I think the mayor had an inkling of who was going to replace her, who she wanted.
Right.
And I think this dude,
Yeah.
this Wallin guy, had an idea of who he wanted to. You don't make these. I think Reanne knew 6 months before that if she won, somebody would have to replace her. And
absolutely.
I don't buy that you run, you win, and then all of a sudden you go,
what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, now somebody has. No.
What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, and
No.
maybe it wasn't laid out all perfect like I'm saying it. But,
Right.
I know politicians and I know politics, Jay, and you know it as well as I do. Nobody makes moves like this
Right.
without having thought it out. Who's going to replace me? Who's going to run? How are you going to fill that vacancy? There's no way that these moves would have happened without it.
Right.
Not a chance.
Right, exactly. And, and Big Lake, as we know, is kind of a more conservative area. You can go look at the numbers at the Secretary of State website.
CD6, Tom Emmer's district.
Yep, Tom Emmer's. You got Nick Zerwas as state rep, and you have Mary Kiffmeyer
the senator.
as the senator,
Senate
and they
District
win
30.
by large margins every time. And
It's 60-40, 65-35, somewhere in that
right,
neighborhood.
and you have Rose Johnson, who is a strong liberal.
Far left person, yes.
Yeah. Who magically now is on the council because she's appointed. So you have a guy that was elected but not to be mayor that's appointed to mayor. You have someone not on the council who was not elected but appointed to the council. And may I also add that you had over in the commissioner's race against Reanne, you had Paul Seefeld who was running, who actually within the boundaries, his district was Big Lake City, Big Lake Township. In the boundaries of Big Lake City, he got more votes than Rose Johnson did, but he wasn't even considered for that. So yeah, they already had it all figured out. I mean, you look at it that way.
Yes, Paul got a lot more.
He
of
was
those.
It was. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
Well,
It
two
was-
people in that race, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. I want to say like 1,300, but I can't remember.
Well, that's
It
a
was-
lot. Big Lake's not a city of
or
500,000.
maybe that was his total. But he did come in with more votes in Big Lake City than Rose Johnson did, but he was not even considered. So
Nobody was considered.
right, So time has gone by, you know.
Right. 6 months have gone by.
6 months have gone by. And for personal reasons, Dick Backlund resigned effective 6/25/19. That was just 3 days ago from when we're recording this here. So that leaves, guess what, another vacancy. So they had a meeting on 6/25 to accept this resignation. So that's why the resignation is effective as of 6/25. And surprise, surprise, they already had a plan in place of how they were going to fill this vacancy. Special election, right? I mean, you can't appoint a majority of people on a city council, right? I mean, you have to have an election of at least a majority, right? The people have to. Well, no, not in Big Lake. You don't. In Big Lake, it's okay. You just keep appointing, and you keep appointing, and you keep appointing. I mean, who knows? Maybe Seth Hansen is going to go on a permanent vacation, and they'll appoint that seat too. So they chose that they're going to do this one though much more wide open because they're going to accept applications and do interviews.
Oh, yippee! Mm-hmm. And I suppose those interviews will be on camera at council meetings.
Who knows?
I doubt it. It'll probably be at a work meeting or at a special
or a special interview. And it's more of the same. I mean, if you think that they don't have somebody,
of course they do,
that they already have in
mind,
or that the DFL already.
I don't know if Mr. Backlund's in on that because
I don't either.
Because it seems like he resigned for, some sort of personal reason or something.
Yeah.
He's not seeking higher office or anything.
Right.
But you know that if Jay, Lord help us all, if I were on a city council or something, and I didn't like somebody on that council, or I knew there was going to be an open seat or something, I'd have somebody recruited already to run against that person.
I would already
and
have
I'm telling you, this mayor, without a doubt, has already got that.
I would already have them recruited on an advisory
I check his
commission.
Facebook friends and see who applies, whose buddies.
There's already been a couple of names floated around to me behind the scenes. I mean, we'll see what turns up.
We won't out them here.
No, but yeah, you kind of wonder because they control the interviews, they control the interview process, so they can still technically pick whoever they want.
And let me throw out something: they don't need publicly to state any reasoning.
No, they don't.
But they don't need to say, well, here's the criteria we're looking for. Here's the person who matches that, whether that's experience or somebody who's been on commissions or somebody who's been a big-time volunteer.
Yep.
Or something. I mean, they could set criteria like that. Say, look, you gotta meet some minimum standards here. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I mean, I think that's good, generally speaking. It's not the whole end
well,
of the game.
I've seen the application. It came out,
and
I've seen the application. And I think that you should be able, if I don't agree with appointing in almost any circumstance, there are very few circumstances where I think it's okay. I would, even in short range situations, I would rather go with a vacancy for 6 months than I would an appointment.
Yeah, there's no reason for it at that point.
But if I were going through an appointment, I think that all you need to do is, okay, is this person qualified to serve on the council? Do they live in the area? Are they old enough? Check the legal boxes. And then they come in and interview. And this application asked, what do you do for a living that, or what do you do that, would lend you to be an asset to the council? What kinds of things have you volunteered for that would allow you to be an asset on the council? It was like four just generic questions.
They're looking for
keywords.
Yeah.
Although they probably already have somebody in mind off of an advisory commission already picked out.
Probably.
So, what was the vote for this? It was 3-2. You had Seth Hansen, Mike Wallin, and Rose Johnson, who all voted in favor of appointment, and Paul Knier, who stood against it.
So it was 3-1. Dick Backlund didn't vote.
That's right. He didn't stick around to vote.
Well, good. I mean, he shouldn't have a vote. I mean, I commend him for not voting.
He would already have been resigned at that point.
They accept his resignation first. He can't vote.
Right.
But he shouldn't be involved in picking his successor.
Right. It wasn't like with Rose Johnson's appointment where she got to have a vote on when her special election would be. be.
Which is never. It would be next year.
Right.
For the
It's going
last
to be
2
next
years.
year, yeah.
So, yeah. She has to.
Right.
She has to be elected to fill out the back 2 years.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Jay, I'll tell you what. Just let me back up on appointments, just generally speaking. This is where you and I have talked about charter cities. We've talked about statutory cities, city codes. There is a lot of leeway that the state of Minnesota gives cities to make appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Too much leeway as far as I'm concerned. Because, again, while I'm of the belief that government closest to you is the most important, it's pretty important that we elect those people. I mean, think about this for a second. Let's pretend. Let's say that 3 out of 5 people get appointed on a council, and 3 of them are communists.
Yes.
And they completely come in and they say, we're going to shut down private enterprise. We're going to write in our city. I mean, this is a
right. We're not calling the
extreme
people
example.
in Big Lake communists.
Right. But I mean, and the citizens of that city had no authority. They never elected these people to do this.
Right.
You know what I mean? They never said, wait a minute, what are you doing? Who put you here to do this? Well, we put ourselves here.
Yes.
Or what if, they, make all sorts of ridiculous things that citizens of a city don't want.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what's your recourse? Yeah, you can run in 2 years, but in the meantime, your city goes to hell in a handbasket in 2 years. A lot of things can happen in 2 years.
Absolutely.
So, but I mean, 2 years is a long time to be. And let me answer something else, because I get brushback personally when I talk about appointments about, special elections are expensive. It's funny. Cities, school districts, counties spend millions of dollars, pay 6-figure salaries to staff, bond millions of dollars, spend millions of dollars on buildings.
Don't even bat an eye. Yeah.
Yeah, spend it like they're late to their yoga class.
Oh,
they raise taxes.
A bike lane they haven't liked.
5, 10, 15% a year. Oh, but when it comes to electing people, now we're all fiscal. We're all Ron Paul all of a sudden.
Right.
When it comes to government spending, we're Justin Amash all of a sudden. And it's like, wait a second here. So I don't want to hear this. It's expensive BS. That is the crummiest excuse. That is the most BS excuse. If anybody uses that, they are full of 110% American-made baloney.
Well, let me tell you that this is all about control. When you have an election, there is a choice, and it is not something that you have control over. So that is why they appoint. They use that opportunity to be able to put somebody into a seat that is all of a sudden going to become the incumbent in the next election.
They are councilperson so-and-so.
Don't be fooled.
And you go back to appointments and look at what's happened with appointments.
Yeah.
Ryan Karasik in Champlin. Mm-hmm. How'd he get on that council?
He got appointed.
John Elder in New Hope. How'd he get on that council?
Got appointed.
Okay, so these people get appointed.
Yeah.
Then they hang around for a while.
Yeah, I would say Champlin. It's another city where 3 out of 5 have been appointed.
Right. I know.
Granted, reelected since, but appointed.
Yes, appointed to begin with.
Yes.
So this kind of thing just is running rampant. And
look at over on the St. Croix River, the story that we had
Lakeland.
In Lakeland, where the mayor tried to appoint one of his people.
Two of them.
Yep.
2 of them.
Right. And then finally, I mean, the rest of the council brought some other people in, but it was still by appointment.
Yeah. And Lakeland, come on, are you telling me a city of a couple thousand people, it costs $50,000 to have a special election? Give me a break.
Yeah.
How can that cost that much money?
No, not in a city that size. Let me read these 2 things, and you'll see a difference in the thought process. After the meeting...
Are we using thought loosely?
Not in this case.
Oh, okay.
Paul Knier wrote this after his meeting.
You're right. We're
night.
going to get some thoughtfulness here.
It says, "Hello all. Here's what went down at the council meeting tonight. We accepted the resignation of Councilmember Backlund, who submitted his resignation late last week. Then we debated how to fill the vacancy. Although I was outvoted, I stood for freedom and for the right of Big Lake citizens to choose their own representation, as I did last January. With all due respect to my fellow council members, as a result of tonight's vote, we'll soon have 3 out of 5 council members appointed to their roles rather than elected by the people. I'm disappointed in the result of tonight's vote, as I feel strongly that the right of the people to choose is a core principle of our republic and is something to be protected.
Profound.
Yes.
I hate to say this because normally nobody writes things better than I do. I would not change a word out of those statements.
That's good.
By Councilman Paul Knier.
Yes, and then we have Councilwoman Rose Johnson on the other side of the issue, who, after seeing that Paul made a very thoughtful response after the meeting, decided she had to chip in her 2 cents as well.
Always love to be. You want to be the leader, not the leadee.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You don't want to be led. You
want
to lead.
It's like in football. You want to be the hitters, not the hittees.
Yes. And she's acting here like she didn't read Paul's statement to begin with.
I'm sure she read it. Probably was the first one to read it.
Probably. At last night's city council meeting, we accepted the resignation of one council member and acknowledged the vacancy on the council. There was a vigorous discussion on how to fill that position, much as there was in January. Ultimately, a majority decided to accept applications from interested community members, interview those interested applicants, and select one to fill the remainder of the term through December 2020. I voted for that option. The option is recognized as a lawful alternative for filling vacancies. That is true. That doesn't make it right. Special elections are expensive with very poor voter turnout, often only a small fraction of the voters in a general election. To me, this is not representative government at all. I recognize that reasonable people can and will disagree about whether a special election or appointment is the right solution, but the city council is tasked with making decisions. We do that by majority vote. By necessity, this means that not everyone will...
Are we 5 years old?
Yeah. By necessity, this means that not everyone will agree with every decision.
Boy, she didn't do a very good job of defending that.
No.
I mean...
No.
Nobody's going to buy... They get their property tax bill that 3 appointed people voted on.
Right.
I bet they're not going to think a special election was too expensive.
Special elections are expensive is the first thing that...
there we go again.
Freedom isn't free.
Yeah, well...
You know? Very poor voter turnout. Guess what? That's on the people.
Yeah, and
you know what?
And I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Show me these special elections. I mean, if everybody's going to appoint, you know.
Yeah.
What was the last special election in Big Lake? I'd like to see.
Right. Exactly.
What is she quoting? I mean, she backs up.
What are the numbers?
Backs it up with no stats or examples. Or, even so, that's not a reason to take my vote away.
Yeah. Same with low voter turnout. Guess what? That's on the people. At least you gave them...
Should we take away the midterms in some year because it was low voter turnout?
I mean, you give people the option to make a decision, and a vote not to vote is still a vote.
Right. It's just you voted present.
Right. So put it back on the people. If they choose not to vote, they choose not to do their civic duty, that's on them. It's not on you to decide whether they get that civic duty or not. Whether it's legal in Minnesota, that's a whole other issue. It shouldn't be. It is, but it shouldn't be. You know what else?
And again,
abortion is legal, but I'm not going to go, urge somebody to have one.
Well, you're right. There's a bunch. Legality and morality have nothing to do with each other. And let me just say this. Yeah. You're right when you talk about appointments being legal, but again, this is where cities have to take the initiative here.
They do. They need to write better laws.
Write it into their code. And if you have a charter, you write this into your charter.
Yeah.
The cities can't do that, or they're limited in doing that.
And if you're on a charter commission, you have to do that. I mean, you have to take that step. And this is why. The other side is going to start trying to put this stuff in stone as well. Where did it go?
Yeah,
here?
I mean, what's to stop a city from saying, we're going to pass a city code saying we'll never have special elections?
Right.
Outside of state law.
You could do that.
Because it's 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I believe it's state law. If there's 2 years left or 50% left of a term. So what's to stop a city from saying, we're not even going to debate it. We're going to pass something in city code, especially a statutory city, because they don't have to do it like a charter city where it's supermajority to change the charter.
Right.
I think. I mean, I may not be 100% right on this, but I bet don't stop.
Yeah.
I don't want cities to get that idea here.
Right.
But what would and now the precedent's been set too. We've appointed so and so. We appointed so and so, and their goal is to next time not have a discussion at all.
Right.
Oh, we're just going to appoint. Why? Well, that's what we did last time. And
Yep.
It's like bonding. Well, why are you going to bond? Well, that's because that's the way we do it around here.
Yep.
They'll be everybody's just just a robot after that.
Right. And so for you to say that, oh, that'll never happen in my city, they're not going to write that into the charter. Let's go to Brooklyn Center just for a second. Take a sidestep. Where I saw another message here in this discussion from one of the members of the Brooklyn Center Charter Commission. I'll throw his name out there. He made it public. Don Bumgarner.
Might have went after me slightly.
Don Bumgarner. He says if a city council member leaves with more than 6 months left on their term, that the city automatically offer. He wants to make this proposal. Sorry, in Brooklyn Center, that if a city council member leaves with more than 6 months left on their term, that the city automatically offer the open city council seat to the third or fourth place finisher in the previous election. This saves the city around $30,000 and tons of staff time for special election and takes the possible political bias out of who would be filling the city council seat due to who would be allowed to run for the open seat, because they would be selected via whatever political bias was in play at the time of the current mayor and the other city council members. They currently have a lengthy process that they need to go through. My proposal is short, sweet, and uncomplicated, and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, so while it's a good idea not to allow for appointments, you're still doing away with an election. Somebody's mind can change. And the public's mind can change and say, I liked that person, now I don't like that person. I didn't like that person to begin with, now I like that person. It could still be, I don't like that person, or I still like that person. Or that person's mind could change and say, I wanted to run, now I don't want to run. And then you skip the fourth person down to the fifth person, and you have somebody that nobody liked, except maybe, like Johnny B. He and his mom voted for him. And then
that fifth person could be a total nutbag.
It could be.
Maybe that's why they lost in the first place.
Maybe
that person could have done nothing in the campaign and ran and not gave a crap.
Yeah.
Now you offer them that solution is pure insanity.
Yes.
It's insanity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm baffled at that somebody would actually write that into a charter. Good luck getting that ever changed. I mean, that is tough.
Yeah.
I mean, just mind-boggling. Talk about writing something in the charter the wrong way.
Yeah, this is why you guys need to get on a charter commission.
So if Senator, let me give you a better example.
Okay.
Let's pretend. I'll just pretend for a second that Tom Emmer got appointed to Trump's cabinet.
Yeah.
And the solution for Mr. Emmer's seat was to appoint the person that he defeated or the person who came in third.
Right.
To represent. No, you tell me what the difference is. Hey, special election is expensive, right?
Right.
So what is the difference between that? Tom Emmer won by what? 39 points?
Yeah.
I mean, so you're going to appoint. What is the difference between doing that?
Let me tell you, in their eyes, what it is, that's a partisan election. You're bringing in a Democrat instead of a Republican. In their eyes here, it's nonpartisan, but it's really not.
Yeah, if they think it's nonpartisan, then they're even dumber than I thought.
Because the left does not treat it as nonpartisan.
And how many local elections have got party backing, union backing, other special interest groups, right and left, mostly left.
Yep.
Most people on the right do it on their own. And I'm just. That's beyond nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then just to wrap up Rose's post here.
It's good Rose is a talker.
Yeah.
She must not work or something. She must just sit there and stalk Paul or something the whole time.
I don't know. But her statement about, where is it in here? That basically it's their job to make decisions. The city council is tasked with making decisions, and we do that by majority vote. I mean, what a kind of snotty thing to say, first of all. But you're tasked with making decisions like, what's the budget? Are we going to redo this city street? Are we building a pool? Do we need the weed control inspector to go out and spray for dandelions? Essential
services.
Yeah.
Following the Constitution.
Appointing people to your council. Deciding who runs your city. That's not yours to decide.
No,
I mean, technically, sure, it might be legal, in quotes, but...
legal with a nod, nod, wink, wink.
Yeah. Whatever. Whatever.
Big Lake, we still love you. I mean,
well,
except for the council.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, councils can get worse, Jay.
But I'm going to tell you right now. Let's end it with this.
Yeah.
4 out of these 5 seats are going to be up for election in 2020.
Yeah.
Get on an advisory committee right now and get some background and do something for your city so that you can build a resume and run in 2020.
Okay, anyhow.
Word.
Jay, we're once again sitting in a city full of controversy right now.
Yes, we are.
Sitting right here in St. Lenin Park, Lewis Park.
Lenin. If there was no question that was an evil guy. Just look at him with the goatee and the...
Well, Stalin takes the cake over Lenin.
Yeah, he does.
Me, but Lenin created the system that Stalin exploited. But St. Lenin Park here,
yes,
has gotten in a little controversy about the Pledge of Allegiance over the past few weeks. They decided to stop saying it at the beginning of every council meeting. Why is more head-scratching than the fact that they did it at all. Their reasoning is mind-challenging. I don't know how to put it.
Yes.
A couple of their council people are clearly left-wing activists. That are, a couple that have really been vocal. I'm not including Jake the Snake, the mayor. I'm not including him yet because he conveniently was gone this day.
Right.
I had a poker tournament or something, I don't know, but he wasn't around. So, and he's been very inconsistent on this issue. But they decided to stop saying the Pledge of Allegiance, Jay, and so
nice.
Apparently, it's offensive.
Well, it's nice that they chose to do that right before Independence Day.
Is there a good time to do it, though?
There's never a good time, but that's like a huge slap in the face, isn't it, to the country?
What amazes me, though, is this kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to know, and I want to let our listeners know, because you'll be seeing this from me on the blog very soon, I have put in a request, or I am in the process of putting in a request to the city of St. Louis Park. I want I want everything. I'm going to do, you know what, you local paper and Fox 9 with your pride symbols and stuff on your 9. I'm going to do the work that you should be doing.
Yeah.
Because you sure as hell aren't going to do it. So I'm going to do it. I am requesting, Jay. Mark my words, read my lips, or whatever political adjective you want. Ask what you cannot do for St. Lenin Park, but what I can do to help St. Lenin Park. I have requested all documents, Jay, all communications, having anything to do with this Pledge of Allegiance crap. And you know why I want it?
Yeah.
Number one reason, and again, maybe you people, you journalists out there, you so-called journalists could listen. I want to know where this originated. Because when the media has stopped looking at President Trump's tweets and decided to go out and talk to people in St. Louis Park, they did not seem to like this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess that St. Louis Park residents were not piling into the council meetings saying, we want that racist Pledge of Allegiance not said.
Right.
I'm going to guess not one resident did that. Probably so where's this coming from? This is coming from one of these council people, from Knier, from some group that controls these council people.
Well,
or put them there. And that's where it came from, Jay. And let me tell you something. I will not rest Okay, I'm appointing myself special prosecutor here. I am judge, jury, and especially executioner, and I am going to find out where this originated. And you're gonna find community solutions is gonna break this.
I would like to get to the bottom of it. Supposedly, it came through Ann Mavity in Ward 2.
Well, she sponsored it, but that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I mean,
that's probably not
listening to her quotes. I can't believe she's not blonde. So I mean, point being, she could be carrying the water for somebody else for all we know.
And we've seen this tried before. I mean, Steve Schmigdahl tried it in Golden Valley.
Yeah, I know.
And
even Golden Valley beat it back,
Yeah.
which says something about how whack job St. Lenin Park really is.
Well, and let me say this: it always comes down to it's the sticking over the, one nation under God part of it.
They didn't even mention that, though.
No, that's not what they mentioned at all. It was to save time. Is really what this is. Carol Levin.
No. Everybody didn't feel good. Yet they didn't quote anybody who said that.
Oh, that's funny because here it says that's because the council voted 5-0 to remove it as a mandatory part of procedure at the start of meetings. A move taken partially to save time, along with the decision to move the council meetings forward so they can start at 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, way less people can show up.
Then put forward in recognition of the diversity of the city.
So if
how long does the pledge really take? I mean, is that going to save time?
Why don't they just start the meeting 1 minute earlier and say the pledge?
Yeah, start at 6:59, or sorry, they're going to start at 6:30 here. Start at 6:29.
Yeah, well, okay, problem solved.
Yeah. But, I mean,
ask the networks for more time.
Right. I mean,
on all the people watching
those
Nielsen ratings, they're going to start a minute early to up those Nielsens.
Let's do something just for fun, as long as we're doing this show and we can just kind of wing it. We don't
kind of wing it, Jay. That's all we do.
Well, we don't just
no hard breaks. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, we do our share of research.
There was that one time.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to time myself here. This is going to be fun. Hold on. Stopwatch.
Are you going to say the pledge?
Yes, I am.
I got to take my hat off.
Yeah, you got to cover your heart with that puppy there. All right, we're sitting down.
Am I going to recite it also?
You can if you like. You can join me.
But what if we're off key?
Well, that's true. And I do it a little bit different because there's no comma, one nation under God. That's like, it's not one nation under God. So I even saved them time right there. I just saved St. Louis Park like 1/10 of a second.
Well, then they can start it at 6:29 and 0.5 seconds or whatever. You say it. Everybody at home here. I'm sitting, and we are sitting down, but that's because we're on the job.
And
we do have our headphones
speak
on.
into these mics.
But I'm going to just put my hat on my rusty old Twins hat.
Yeah.
Okay, that my wife hides from me.
Hopefully, I won't be like Roseanne or something with the Star Spangled Banner and mess.
No, I don't. Don't grab your jock. All right, I'll listen to you recite.
Boy. All right, here we
spitting.
go. I'm going to start this right now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, my cheeks are sweating.
It's as if I have rehearsed it millions of times.
I think you've said it a few times.
Yeah. If I were to walk into the St. Louis Park City Council and just blurt it out.
Can I put my hat back on?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Guess how many seconds I would just add to their meeting.
I guess maybe 15 or 20?
11.78. That I can see the people just streaming out of the city council chambers.
Tell you what, if St. Louis Park wants some advice on how to save time, I think they should hire us as consultants. I could save them tons of time.
I think they should just stay home.
Yeah, exactly. I just do nothing. That would be better. You resign, you resign, and then we'll be just fine.
Yeah. We're going to have a special.
The more that city does, the worser it gets.
Yes. That's where, like, when they had the 23-second, they're into saving time, aren't they? 23 seconds to pass tobacco, 21 in some side room that wasn't even the council chambers.
Yeah, in the consent agenda.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing.
Amazing and violated their
charter.
Their charter.
Well, there is that.
Well, now,
that dusty old thing.
Yeah. Now, one thing they're doing is they are revisiting this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before we get into some of the loony comments.
You mean like they liked doing it so much the first time, they're going to take it out a second time?
Well, my guess is that it's going to stay out. I mean, you've got committed activists on this city council, and I don't see this changing.
Right. But the reason they're looking at it all is because the people of St. Louis Park aren't happy about it.
Well, it's about time they woke up. I mean, this city council's out of control.
Right.
Out of control.
Absolutely.
But this Ann Mavity lady, who's just got, wonderful history of, affordable housing. And what is this, U.S. Aid to Moscow?
No, U.S. Aid's Moscow office.
Oh, okay.
But it was in the mid-'90s, right? When the Soviet Union was being deconstructed.
Here's what I love. She's got a master in a public policy degree. Now, can you? What are the classes required to take that? Is that like majoring in, planning a city or something like that? I mean, what is that?
Public policy. I mean, it's a form of political science, except it's a lot of people will take that want to go into government. So she may very well have higher aspirations as well. I mean, when you major in something like that, public policy, there's a good chance that you want to put that to work either as an elected official or as part of the bureaucracy. Writing law. I mean, especially writing law, because you're majoring in creating policy. A lot of your think tank people, they probably have majored in public policy.
Think tanks, boy, I'll tell you.
Pull the plug.
That's a worse con job than professional photography. All right. Now, she's Ward 2. Where is that in St. Louis, St. Lenin Park? There, Jay?
Boy.
You look that up. I want to tell you about
I'll see if I can find
Tim Brausen. Brausen?
Sure.
Brausen.
Brausen, probably, yeah.
What's his background? This guy thought that doing this would hopefully be controversy-free. Just to show a level of ignorance just beyond belief. But he vigorously works on issues of affordable housing, environmental sustainability, racial equality, and community building. He believes changes will... This is from his council page, stlouispark.org. So, if you think I'm making this up, it's right on his webpage. He believes changes will occur regardless of our actions. We need to work to ensure the change benefits as many of our residents as possible. Now, to me, that sounds like socialism.
Yeah.
We're going to spread the wealth around.
Right.
I mean, isn't that, And you can't do that while protecting individual rights. I love how he says at the end, to protect, if you spread things around, you can't protect individual rights. It's impossible.
Ward 2 is everything south of Highway 7.
Okay, so not where we're sitting.
No, we are up in we're sitting somewhere else.
Brausen is Ward 4.
Secret bunker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ward 4 is the northern part, everything above the Burlington Northern Railroad line.
Well, where the hell is that? Are we in Ward 4 right now?
It is in between.
In our bunker? Our special hideout that no one can find?
It is the Burlington Northern line is just a little south of Cedar Lake Road. Probably, if you were to break it up into 4, it would be 2. It'd be 3/4 of the way up in between Minnetonka Boulevard and Cedar Lake Road. So, and then wards 2 and 3 are split pretty even in the middle of that, with 3 being to the west and 1 being over to the east. So.
Now, they have 7 people on the council. Do they have 2 at-larges? And Jake the Snake, of course, is an at-large.
Right, being the mayor. Oops. Yeah, they do have 7. And, yeah, they have an at-large A and an at-large B.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So A is that like one side, or that doesn't matter?
Well, yeah, it doesn't.
I'll tell you, this Tim Bronson guy, if he's not an alcoholic, he looks like he should be. And I'll tell you what else here. I don't even want to look at the other members. I don't want to know. I know one of them.
Boy.
One of them also was gone, along with, of course, the mayor, who's basically the dictator. And the mayor has been hiding under his desk ever since. And here's the funny part: Ann Mavity goes on Channel 11, Channel 9, defending this, bragging about it. You go to her tweetering page. There's not a word about it on there.
All right.
I mean, if you're so proud and you're going to defend this and blah, 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 where are you?
Yeah.
Ever since then, she's been hiding.
No, she's just kind of been retweeting everything Tina Smith says.
Well, that's...
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're facing, maybe St. Louis Park is kind of like finally coming out of their coma. And it was gonna go after some of these council people and get them the hell out of there.
Yeah,
I know I would. I would have done it 10 years ago. The way this city's going,
right?
Odd year elections again, so they're rigged.
Mm-hmm.
So it is this year. So you folks thinking about running, you've got little time to prepare. You've got to get out there, and
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're right about where this group stands. And Mavity retweeted something from Ilhan Omar about contributing to Angela Connolly, who we talked about in the last podcast. And she replies with, done. So we know where her money went.
Yeah.
Retweeting ACLU.
Peter McLaughlin was too conservative for her.
Right. Retweeting things from the ACLU about children ripped from parents, forgetting that Barack Obama built those cages and President Clinton started that program.
Well, they're here illegally.
Yeah. Southwest Light Rail. Yeah. They say construction is starting soon. That we'll have to do a podcast about that.
Well, they've been saying that for the last 10 years.
Right. So, but yeah, that's
but I don't
what
get. I
she's
don't get it.
about.
The one nation under God thing didn't even come up.
Right.
So how is it? How is the Pledge of Allegiance offensive? If I were an immigrant and I made it to this country, I would recite the pledge with my chest out. I do anyway.
Yeah.
But I would recite it with my chest out, my head held high. I got to America, baby.
Yeah.
I would be reciting that thing as, in the shower. I'd be doing it so the world could hear me.
Yeah. So whether this is an issue of diversity because of skin color or an issue of diversity because of religion, I don't know. Most religions don't shy away from God, other than atheism and
which isn't
radical
a religion.
Environmentalism.
Yeah.
I think they are.
Environmentalism is a religion, for sure.
Right. And so, I think that, that has been the issue in the past. But let me tell you how the First Amendment works. You have freedom of speech, which means you can say things if you want to. You cannot say things if you don't want to. You have to allow somebody to say something if they want to, or allow somebody not to say something if they don't want to. So how is the best way to do this? Let people say the stinking pledge, and if you don't want to say it, don't say it.
Well,
nobody's putting a gun to your head.
Also, isn't there...
especially not in this city.
Freedom of assembly. This is also freedom of assembly. Council meeting.
Yeah. Freedom of assembly.
It's two parts of the First Amendment.
Freedom of religion, that's a third. Not freedom from religion.
Right.
Freedom of religion, that's a third part of the First Amendment.
What is this establishment clause stuff? I can't believe... You know what, Jay? If you and I sat down and talked about establishing a religion, keep the lawyers out of it, you'd know when a religion's being established and when it isn't.
Exactly.
So, the idea that the word God establishes a religion or the,
that's like saying that the word...
The Bible sitting in a public school is somehow establishing a religion.
That's like if we start talking about a ball and automatically baseball is the only sport.
Yeah, we've established
the sport.
It's I shake
ridiculous.
my head at how does a court even take that up? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
and the court shouldn't be deciding it. How many times you got to say that? This doesn't belong in the courts.
And let me say one other thing. If
you say one other thing.
If you are elected to a public office, you are serving the United States of America and or Minnesota and or the city that you come from or the county that you come from at the pleasure of the voters who elected you. If you can't say the flipping Pledge of Allegiance, leave the part about God in or out, whatever your deal is. But if you can't stand and pledge that you are going to serve America when you've been elected to serve America, then get out.
You swore on the Constitution.
Or
is that you took an oath? I mean, what's the difference between taking an oath on the Constitution and saying the pledge? You're it's the same mindset to me.
I think it keeps somebody's thoughts focused on, hey, I'm here at the pleasure of the people who elected me.
Liberty and justice for all.
I'm here to serve America at the pleasure of the people who elected me. You don't want to say that? Guess what happens? Over time, you just learn to serve yourself.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't take too much time sometimes either.
No, unfortunately not.
But we'll update everybody on whether how this gets reviewed. Apparently, July 8th, I see it's going to be. Now, I don't know if that means work session.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. But we are the investigative reporters. Mm-hmm. Actually, I don't consider myself a journalist, and I know you don't either.
Right.
But we're going to do a journalist job because nobody else is interested in trying to find. Because I think it's important that, Jay, you mentioned something about serving at the pleasure of the residents. Yeah. That means you do the residents' business. Mm-hmm. Okay? You're not an activist for your own causes. And the idea that seeing the community reaction, like I said, tells me this did not originate with a groundswell of residents who want something. Residents may come to you and want, a park spruced up, or they may want, a house that's looks bad to be condemned and torn down. Yeah. They may come to you and say, we're interested in having a pool or something. How do we make it happen? What's the call? Let's talk about it.
Right.
Okay. And you may say, okay, I represent you. You're interested in that. I'll have that discussion. I don't know if I agree with your position, but we'll have that discussion. Mm-hmm. And I want to know where this started and originated from. I want to see the very first email, probably from Mavity to Jake the Snake Spano. I want to see that first email.
Yeah.
And see what was talked about. See what they said when they think nobody's watching.
It was somebody's idea to get this on the agenda.
How did it get on the agenda?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody had to be told.
Right. Does that go through Spano, or does that go directly to the city administrator, or where does it go?
But the city administrator, there's no way the city administrator brought this to them.
No.
This had to come from the council to say, hey, put this on the agenda.
Yep.
Something like this. I want to know who put it on the agenda. So
we'll figure it out.
We'll find out what the gare's going on. I got a feeling that, there's these outside groups that seem to have a lot of influence on St. Louis Park.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the bottom. Pay attention to the blog, folks. We'll get to the bottom of it.
This is why you need to pay attention, folks. Things like this are happening under your nose. Forgot to mention under our first story from Big Lake, their applications are due by July 9th. So have fun when you're not paying attention to government over the 4th of July holiday.
Yeah.
There's
a rush to get somebody in there.
Right, exactly. They can't have an opening for more than 2 seconds because they can't make a decision on their own.
Yeah, they don't want the 3-1 votes. They got to outnumber Paul Knier 4-1.
Right.
Make sure it's 4-1.
Yeah.
Because 2-2, that's motion fails.
Right.
So can't have that. Can't have one person fall off the Titanic.
Nope. So if you're in Big Lake, get that filled out immediately, please. And if you're somewhere else, this kind of stuff happens all the time. I mean, we just pick these examples out. I mean, Big Lake and St. Louis Park. Well, we've talked about things happening.
We got pipelines of information coming.
Yeah, happening. Remember that? Yeah, we have talked about things that happened in cities and counties, school districts all over the state. You guys, you got to get involved. I mean, to not get involved while this stuff is going on. Where are our patriots? Where are the people that are willing to sacrifice, to stand up and say, this is not going to happen in my community?
If you don't get involved, as Roscoe P. Coltrane would say,
Boy,
shame, shame, everybody knows your name.
he did say that. Yes, it would mean more if you could say it in his voice. I think.
I could maybe do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do it on the spot.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that. Say, Minnesota, what do you say that we pull ourselves up by the bootstraps? It's Independence Day. Let's be independent from government that thinks that they know better than we do, that got elected to a position and all of a sudden thinks that they have the ability to just do whatever the stink they want to do. Why? What do you say? You know, what do you say that we do a little bit of self-sacrifice? And, you know, you may love to fish, but maybe you have an interest in government. Maybe you can put one fishing trip on hold or whatever so that you can serve in an advisory commission. Maybe you don't even need to do that. They usually meet during the middle of the week. You could take your packet out with you on the boat.
Huh.
You know, there are
But pay attention when you're driving.
Right. Don't read while you're driving. You know, there's plenty of time while you're sitting there not catching anything. So, let me tell you. It is time. It is that time in history. Make a decision to stand up for independence and liberty, or decide that we're just going to go down the road of serfdom. We are going to become slaves to a government that is growing at a breakneck pace, that wants us to do things their way, that wants to restrict freedom, that wants to take our money and make us live in a prison. There's really no other way to say it. More regulation, more taxes, less money to pay our bills, less money to be able to enjoy life and the things that we like to do. Who's with me? Stand up. It is time to march on down to the City Hall office as soon as you get back into town from being out of town and you hear this podcast. You march down there and you fill out an application, get on an advisory commission. Do it.
And always remember the great words of Yogi Berra.
Yes.
If you get cash, it's just as good as money.
That's true.
Sorry, Jay, I had to lighten the load a little bit.
That's good.
I mean, your speech is inspiring, but it's I'm getting one-liners in my head.
Yeah, well, that's how things work around here. All right, we're willing to come to you. We're willing to teach you guys in any way that we can and get you guys inspired to go out and make a difference. Get a hold of us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. You see any shady stuff happening in your city, your county, your school district, get a hold of us. Or have us come out and we'll talk to you guys about how to get involved. It's that time for you to stand up and get motivated. Get inspired and get in the game. We love you, Minnesota. Have a happy Independence Day. Celebrate. Because we are still free for now. We love you, Minnesota. Now it's your turn to get to work.